Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Law of One Spiritual Advice Podcast. My name is Elle. I'm here today to speak to you about the Law of One. We'll read a quote, and then I will leave my reflections upon that quote and my opinions with you. I'll try to translate it the best I can. So today's topics are mostly going to be about how to serve others who are attempting to serve themselves, right? Because it's easy to serve somebody who's also looking to serve someone else, but how do you serve somebody who just wishes to maybe control or destroy you, right? Always an interesting thing. So with that, today's quote is from session 67.11, so 67.11. This quote will be from Ra, and the quote begins, "All are the creator. There is one vast panoply of biases and distortions, colors, and hues in an unending pattern. In the case of those with whom you as entities and as a group are not in resonance, you wish them love, light, peace, joy, and bid them well. No more than this you can do, for your portion of the Creator is as it is, and your experience and offering of experience to be valuable needs to be more and more a perfect representation of who you truly are. Could you then serve a negative entity by offering the instrument's life? It is unlikely that you would find this a true service. Thus you may see in many cases the loving balance being achieved, the love being offered, light being sent, and the service to self-oriented entity gratefully acknowledged while being rejected as not being useful in your journey at this time. Thus you serve the one creator without paradox." Ra, The Law of One, session 67.11, end of quote. Okay, firstly, so just to give you a little bit of context into this quote, they are speaking particularly about the channeler, which is what they're referring to in this as the instrument. The instrument is the channeler. Her name is Carla, and she was being targeted by a negative entity. I guess this is actually like a lot to go into. I thought this would just be like kind of quick, but this is the idea of trying to explain the service to self versus the service to other paths. So there's essentially two paths to the creator. Some seek the light and some seek the darkness. So what does that mean? Well, the service to self would like to control, and service to others is about acceptance. Now, with that, I will bring it back to what I was talking about with Carla. So Carla is the instrument, and she's trying to channel some service to others material to this planet and to the people so that she may serve them. Now, there's a negative entity who sees this light, and they desire to take control of it or put it out. So then, basically, that's why they're saying here, could you then serve a negative entity by offering the instrument's life? It is unlikely that you would find this a true service. So realistically, they're just saying to the negative entity, it would wish that you just got rid of the instrument in, not nice ways or whatever. And then, but obviously that wouldn't be a true service. I don't see how you could see that being a service, right? It would be a service to that one entity, but it would really be a true overall service to the larger perspective of life. And then, I'll let you make that decision. I think it's pretty obvious. So bringing it back to the service to self versus service to others, once again, service to self, entities wish to control things. Everything in catalyst in your life comes your way. That catalyst must be then controlled if you were a service to self-oriented entity. If you were a service to others-oriented entity, you would then instead have all the same catalyst come your way, except you would accept that catalyst instead of trying to control it. So I know that sounds pretty obscure, but as you go on in life, you will just slowly realize that controlling things is sort of like a shortcut that leads you nowhere. It just gets you back to the beginning of the lesson. Whereas if you learn to accept things as they are, then you can kind of transform that thing within you into something new until that old thing maybe falls away. So the negative entities, what they would do is they want to control things. So there's chakras that we could talk about, all sorts of things I guess I've written down here. So firstly, let's just talk about the negative entity. What is it desirous of doing? It sees a light. It sees Carla as a light who is trying to serve others and share light. So now this service to self entity sees this light, and it's going to decide, okay, well, I want to control this light. So either through distraction or tempting or anything which takes away from service to others. Really, that's their goal, is just anything that takes away from service to others is then going to be like the negative entity has controlled the positive entity. If not, they will do a couple of other things, which is try to like discredit them with, like, they can try to give them preaches of doom so that they preach doom that kind of discredits the instrument. And then when that else fails, when you can't control a source of light, they wish to put the light out. So why would they want to put it out? Well, the light essentially adds to their power, and there's a reason why they say, even you've ever heard of the term willpower, right? It's essentially like as they increase their will, they increase their strength, they increase their power. That's their willpower, and that is how they, on the service to self path, would evolve on the spiritual path, is they, through controlling, and then let's talk about that, controlling with the efficient use of the bottom 3 chakras. So we all have our 7 chakras, and a service to others entity is going to have all 7 in potentiation. Actually, all entities would have them all in potentiation. So if we are in the 3rd density, then you're going to have all your bottom 3 chakras sort of activated, if that makes sense, to the most minimal degree. Now, the difference is, do you use these bottom 3 chakras to then go down the service to others path, or do you then go down the service to self path? And this is the only density where my understanding is that you make this first choice. So the service to self path then is going to make efficient use of the bottom 3 chakras, so red, orange, yellow. This is sort of like survival, personal power, and societal power, just to make it very simple. So as they are able to control those things to the most efficient degree, they essentially skip the heart chakra of acceptance and of love and understanding, and they go right to the indigo of intelligent infinity, where they then are able to manifest gifts for themselves in the service to self aspect, which I'm sure is really nasty, and but as they say, the creator neither blinks at the dark or the light. It is the free choosing of each to choose how they will seek the creator. And so you have these sort of 2 options. So now, to expand upon that, right, the service to others path then would use the bottom 3 chakras to try to enter the next chakra in line, which is the 4th chakra, which is the heart chakra. So that's the one where you're dealing with acceptance, which is why I make that real strong focus on this in the beginning about control or acceptance, because with service to self, you're not working with acceptance, you're working with control, which means that you're skipping the heart chakra. When you're on the service to others path, you're using the heart chakra, which means that you're going to be working with acceptance. And just make a mention of that is that, service to others, once you enter the heart chakra as well, unconditional love, compassion, service to others, that sort of perception, then the higher chakras are just immediately available to you. So it's like the springboard to the higher centers is the heart chakra, is what they call that. And same thing goes for you, right? Service to others, then you go through the heart chakra. We're going to go up through the blue chakra into the indigo, because we're on the path that is. So we're going to use all the chakras as opposed to the path that is not, where we negate some chakras, right? But the service to others is going to use all of them, come up to the indigo, violet, if it may be, and into intelligent infinity, and you may then manifest the gifts of the creator from infinity in service to others form, which are many. There's truth to bring down, there's creativity, inspiration, music, all that great stuff that, makes life worth living, makes life good. And I even have a quote if you wanted to look up about that service to self part. So it's in session 47.4. And it's sort of halfway through, but I'll just read most of the important part of the paragraph. So this is about how they use efficient use of the bottom 3 chakras, the service to self people. So 47.4, quote, all beings have the potential for all possible vibratory rates. Thus, the potential of the green and blue energy center activation is, of course, precisely where it must be in a creation of love. However, the negatively polarized entity will will have achieved harvest due to extremely efficient use of red and yellow orange, moving directly to the gateway indigo, bringing through this intelligent energy channel the instreamings of intelligent infinity. End of quote. Right, so all paths are possible. You can go either way, but do you want to go the path that is not or the path that is? I would prefer in my path to go down the one that utilizes all the chakras. And yeah, I guess I could mention as well, you would think maybe, well, in the law of one they state, and this is measuring, so be careful, numbers, warning, but just to give you an idea, which is the only reason why they use these numbers in the first place, was just to give you this idea. But to harvest or to graduate or to ascend from this density, it is said that you have to be 51% on the service to others path, and in your intention and action, etc., just sort of your being. And if you're on the service to self path, you have to actually be 98% efficient in that. So that means that you have to be extremely controlling, almost to the point of perfection, controlling all catalysts that comes your way to the point of perfection. However, with the service to others path, there's a lot more room. You might think you have that other 49% for, well, you might consider error, but they state that it's just as difficult to ascend or graduate on the service to self path. Essentially, they equal each other. So it's just as hard to get 98% on the service to self path as it is just as difficult to reach 51% on the service to others path. And I mean, why is that? Well, that's why I'm going to talk about sort of reconciling that path. It's because it's hard to reconcile the service to self path. How are you going to love somebody that wants to destroy you? How do you love something that that is not in resonance with anything to do with your path? And so then they state here at the end of that quote, thus you may see in many cases the loving balance being achieved, the love being offered, light being sent, and the service to self-oriented entity gratefully acknowledged while being rejected as not being useful in your journey at this time. So if a service to self entity were, say, to approach you, and I mean this metaphysically or even just physically, if you kind of deem somebody to be just mean or trying to manipulate you to control you, right? You would then essentially here, and this is white magic, is they state you just send love to it. Now it has to be pure love. It can't just be like, oh, I love you. You really have to feel the love from, it has to be coming from the heart chakra. It has to be an actual essence of true unconditional love for this other being on this other path. You notice them, which is as they state here, you gratefully acknowledge them. However, you reject them as not being useful in your path. So you can see how it's not just rejecting them or forcing someone into love. You essentially need to respect free will, the first distortion of the universe, and allow them the free will to go along their path. However, just acknowledging it and noting that it's not for you at this time. And that's all you can do. And that may sound silly, but I've heard that that is sort of your protection as well. If you're ever to do some kind of metaphysical, spiritual work in sort of magical form, that is the essence of that is magic. What do they say? To transform consciousness at will. So you have somebody projecting their negative consciousness towards you. You, instead of responding in negativity, are knowing that you're on the positive path. You see the negativity, acknowledge it, respond in positivity, and just like the light and the dark, the light always chases out the darkness, right? You bring light into a room, and the light brightens everything up. There may be shadows, but it's going to brighten things. So all you have to do is not respond to darkness with darkness, and that's kind of the trick. Yeah. And then also just sort of end this on, because there's so much stuff to talk about, but I'll just try to keep it quick. So to end this on how negative entities are able to attack Carla throughout the whole Law of One channeling process. So they state that mostly that any of the times that the negative entity was somewhat successful was that whenever the harmony of the group was disturbed. So there was 3 people in this channeling group, the scribe, the questioner, and the channeler, and there was a harmony between them which made this sort of magic happen. So as the harmony became unbalanced, so did the physical things in their life, and open opportunities for a negative entity to give you its service, right? So it's not that these negative things are evil, and they very much are, but they're just doing their service, right? It's all they know what to do, and you know what to do, so let's just all do what we know what to do. And I know I said lastly, but lastly, because this kind of is a warning for people who listen to this type of material. You're going to be a creative mind, an open mind, open to ideas. I warn you, don't be thinking that there's negative entities out to get you everywhere at every time, metaphysically, etc., etc. It just does not serve you very well. Honestly, you're trying to think that way. It's self-destructive. It's almost like a self-fulfilling prophecy. So remember, do your best. Do what you can do, respond in love, try to be love, see it, acknowledge it, be that mirror, that good mirror, right? What more can you do? You don't need to demand things from others or force people to see your view. This is the nature of the service to others path. This is why it's a little difficult. This is why it takes 51% instead of 98%. And do not use those numbers to measure either, please, because measuring is a silly thing. That's a service to self thing as well. You just try to do your best. You don't even know, you might use your logical mind to measure how much you are in service to others, but that's just your logical mind. You don't actually know how much you do or serve or whatever, and even then, you have all the time in the infinite universe to make those decisions. So if you're making them, great. And if not, and you're not ready for it, then that's great too. Just do the best that you can do. Okay. Thank you guys so much. Sorry I missed the last week's end podcast, a little bit of a Christmas break. But yeah, if this material made sense to you, theoneinfinitecreator.com is my website. You can find links to all this material for free. Other than that, I appreciate if you like, share, leave a comment, subscribe. And thanks for sticking around with me and listening. And I hope you guys have a wonderful rest of the week. Love you guys.